Yeah, we're clipping in about probably 6:32, and we need 35 minutes to get up there. So we clip in and get down to the business of a serious warm-up right away. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. Time was kind of tight, so we really warmed up quickly. Got up to the Woodlands, picked up Team RR, headed down Research Forest, Honey Egypt Road, through the Grand Lake Estates, the Hills Parkway on Kenan cut off. We started to really ride. We got to 149, took Spring Branch Road, and went out. Good effort, all on film. That's all film once we got to Bobville. We stayed with the group after Dacus, took the guerrilla route, and on 1097, we started to film again, headed south. We went through Montgomery, took Lone Star Parkway, went across 105, and then Paul went ahead, stopped the filming there. He backed off on the effort. Once he and I got into the Woodlands area, my head unit kind of crapped out early because I guess I didn't fully charge it after a ride earlier in the week right there at Sterling Ridge, but we rode further than that, and I think you will enjoy the clips we got for you.
What's up, Paul?
Good morning, man.
How are you?
Good.
This is at Crust Pizza. We got there just as they were rolling out. You can see it's 7 or 8.
No, just the usual.
Just you for 200 miles a week?
Nah. All right. Hey man, did you see that officer back there? Yeah, I didn't want to blow by the sign.
What sign?
The stop sign before we merge in this road.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's facing that direction.
Yeah, what Paul is talking about is there was an officer parked in the parking lot at Crust Pizza, and so he was concerned about going through the stop sign as we entered the road. But
all right, man.
Where you going?
we're going as a group. That's Mike Weinberg.
It's good, huh?
You got a little energy today, don't you?
The usual.
So I got a little energy. I'm riding up to stay up because I don't want to catch a light and be separated. We had already worked really hard. The first 35 minutes of our ride, we pushed the pace. So it was an intense warm-up. So I wanted to just stay close and be up front and not fall behind. Because you'll see the group are in pieces when you start. Most groups, people warming up, chatting, whatever, we haven't begun to ride yet. But you need to be diligent and vigilant that you don't catch a light and get gapped. Because a lot of groups may not wait for you. If it's just an open ride, you're on your own. Like those guys hanging back there. Most open rides, you can't do that. You need to stay close because they're not going to be waiting for you. This is a very close-knit group, so they wait for people. But other groups that you just show up at an open ride somewhere and you don't know the main people, you need to stay up front, stay close. Don't get gapped because you'll have to work. So I titled this film Group Cycling Intervals because the group has intervals just like you have intervals on your rides depending on what you're trying to accomplish. There are times when the group goes hard. There are times when the group backs off. There's a lull in the pace and you need to take advantage of those moments and be aware to be close when the group is going hard because you can get dropped. Those guys back there are just too far behind. It is early, we're just starting, but still, they're too far behind. You need to stay close to the group. So you can go through intersections as one unit. So what what Paul was talking about, the officer in the parking lot, was that he was concerned about going through that stop sign, but I was going through like a unit with the group, so I wasn't really that concerned. They're not gonna bother me in a situation like that, but you do have to be aware, like he said. You know, he didn't want to go through because the officer was looking in that direction. Like right here, this is a red light. There's no question in my mind that I'm stopping. Even though it's a short light, I'll go ahead and unclip and put my foot down. Right there. Some of these guys roll the red light. You can't do that. Then the light changes. I don't care if it's short. You need, you know, it happens to be a three-way intersection, a T intersection, but still. If an officer is behind you, you just ran the red light.
Well, I didn't want to stop to. I went in the forest.
I was waiting for him further down from the forest.
Mark is asking what happened to Paul last week because we got disconnected in the forest.
Somebody's behind me.
Just so you know how important you are to this group, okay? We waited at Taco Corner, we made phone calls, we sent out people going down different roads. Eldrick can attest.
Yeah, he told me, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, well, you do the same for us, so.
Of course.
Yeah, that's Mark. So what happened is last week
just glad we found you.
we got disconnected. Paul went through the forest, and I wasn't expecting him to.
That's when I turned around.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
turned
Greg.
around.
Did you see my message about Greg later that day?
Yes, yes,
5 o'clock.
yes.
He's training
Yeah,
for some
Greg shot rode 10 hours last Saturday. He's training for some ultra marathon. He's been doing it for a few weeks. That's what we're talking about here. He rode the week before, I think, till like 4 p.m. because he was telling me he was out there in the middle of the day. And then last Saturday, he rode till 5 p.m. from 7 in the morning, or maybe 6 in the morning. So he's riding like 10 and a half, 11 hours to get himself ready to ride probably 200 miles in one day.
You have to ride probably 200 miles in a day or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what event he's training for, but he's done those ultra marathon cycling distances before. I think he did like a triple bypass one time, then he went somewhere, he did another big ride. So he's done that. So you can see my watch, 400 something. We're riding up to these guys here, and this road is slightly up. It may say 0, but it's a slight grade. And whenever you lift the pace, even on a flat road, it takes watts to get going, and then it settles. That's just the way it works. So you sip more energy when you're sitting in. That's all the more reason to stay close in the group. Because every time you bridge up or do something, you're expending a lot of watts. So we're warming up at this point, and we had ridden faster than this to meet them. I mean, you know, faster, harder to meet them. So we're nicely warmed up.
Remind me again what town in Iowa you were in? It's like 130,000. About the size of my building.
We're heading north here on Egypt Lane. There are quite a few riders here on this ride that have not been training consistently. You know, they end up turning around early. Everybody does different things. You have to do what you have to do. But for me, this ride was just something to kind of get my body back in the swing of
What's
things.
that guy's name that it shows up? The one in the front on your road. Scott, right? Okay.
Yeah, Paul's asking about Scott. Scott's one of them who hasn't been riding consistently. But what I was saying was I've been on vacation this week, so been off the bike, been off my normal schedule. So whenever that happens, you want to kind of give your body a few rides before you get back. I wasn't off that long. I was able to ride Thursday evening. So, but still, I felt blocked up on this ride. Whenever I take off a block of time, my legs just always feel blocked up. It takes a few hours on the bike to really get going. So my goal here was to just kind of get my body back in the swing of things by riding more steadily. But with a group, you can never tell how you're going to ride. Because they're dictating different effort levels. I'll go ahead and do a time lapse here because the light, when we got there, it had just changed for the other side. You will see me on the right there. And once that truck moves, I go over and push the button because there are no cars behind us. Early in the morning, this part of time. That's why we come in this direction. Basically, we're leaving the city. So you can see I was at the corner there, I had pushed the button, and then the light changed. Now we're going across. But we're basically going out of town on purpose because we don't want to deal with congested roads.
Car back!
Because where Paul and I live, it's crowded. So we leave our part of town and we go north, either northeast or northwest, depending on what the group is doing or whatever we want to do. Because north is out of town. And then I think far south can be out of town too. They've got smaller towns on the south side of town like Dickinson, Pearland, and different places. But even those are getting kind of congested. Even north of here, this area is still growing. People are moving further and further out. But still, there are pockets of areas where we have, you have large acreage properties.
Eldred, in your opinion, what's the safest route to get from Spring Branch over to Mount Moriah? There's a couple different ways. We go on the Tri-Lakes, cross 1486. Now how we go around the wooden bridge? Yep. Yeah, that's the best route. Because we'll hit Mount Moriah at 1486. That's the best. It's a little, that left turn there is a little tricky. Yeah, people just gotta look, that's all. It's not that bad. But they've been paving out there, Mark. They've repaired the road approaching the bridge. You mean the one that used to? Yeah, the one with that little crease in the middle? The crease is gone. So if you were attached to it, you'd miss it. They put new pavement up to near the bridge. So you'll enjoy it. And then some of it is hard dirt around the back of the school. Paul told me to scrape it up. They're fixing all those little ruts on that old Plantersville road. So that entire downhill to the bridge is new pavement.
Oh, that's going to be hard to not let it go now.
That's what out of the bridge.
But the faster you go over the wood, the smoother it is. Right, Paul?
Right.
I told Mark, I don't know about
road
that.
behind the Montgomery High School.
Yeah, the one that's all...
Yeah, it's all mud. It's like no pavement.
Because they're fixing it.
Yeah, they peeled it. I rode it last week when I was coming home.
Another month and it ought to be good as new, hope.
Oh yeah.
They've, what Paul is talking about, they've scraped off the road, part of the road that in the Tri-Lakes area called Old Plantersville, that leads to Old Plantersville
It's gonna
Road.
be just like a spring branch. Yeah, it's gonna be like that.
They're repaving the surface of the road in certain areas, and so there's a wooden bridge out there, and it's at the bottom of a downhill, so you get a lot of speed. But the bridge is like pieces of wood laid horizontally, so you really have to. I just stand because it's like ripples because the wood's not tightly together, so it's not super smooth. And then they got rivets and bolts holding the wood into the ground. I thought Mark was saying that would be smooth if you go fast. And I don't particularly like the bridge because it shakes you up, But it's good that they're working on those roads. Those roads are not heavily traveled, so you don't usually get the best pavement. But for this area, if you live where we live, you either want to go west or north. We have most of the less populated areas the further you get away from the Woodlands, Houston area, per se. But the Woodlands itself is congested. We're on Fish Creek. This is the beginning of the open road. These roads are nice. This is busier than the other ones. It's still close to town, but still good for riding. This is a good road to train for time trial. If you go straight, it's got a nice slight grade.
Next time Mark is talking about is what we call out a tri-lake.
Yeah.
It's a blind corner. Remember, they just run out there.
Yeah, Mark was not happy with the 1486 corner.
I know exactly what
This is only an Egypt Community Road.
Yeah.
There's a corner where you come out from Tri-Lakes and there's a blind corner. You can't just run out onto the road because cars can appear. But you can hear and see them. You just got to check. And in a group, everyone has to check because a few people might get across before a car shows up. So he was saying that that's a tricky corner, and he's right. You just have to check that. But from the direction we're going, it was the best way to get out to Mount Moriah Road. I'm looking forward to seeing if they will do something with our Honia Egypt Road, because the pavement's okay, but these corners that they've graded for more traction, they're a little rough when you ride over them. I've been able to find the smooth spots, so I can ride them with very little discomfort.
Good, man. How are you?
Like, you see where Dan is, the guy in the blue with the blue shoes? That's the sweet spot on this road. If you're gonna ride the road, that's where you need to be, around the middle. If you're not on the edge like I am, then you don't feel the ripples that bad. So you gotta search for that. Usually on a road like this, it's best to do single file. It's early. I guess it's not busy, but in a little bit we're gonna go single file because I think it's just the way to go. I haven't put on my sunglasses yet. I have them on the back of my head because when we started out, it was still somewhat dark. That's a good shot. Got all the guys in the back. So we're doing 2 abreast here. Yeah, you know, it's legal, but sometimes if you have a lot of cars behind you, it's best to do single file so they can see around you all easier to pass. Every position that you touch the bike is critical. Where your hands rest, if you're too stretched out, you can hurt your shoulders. Over time, the shoulders will ache. If you're too bunched up, that's uncomfortable as well. So, you know, your connection to the bike, your hands, your feet, and the saddle. You need to make sure any discomfort you have is addressed, because it will just get worse as you ride more and more.
I saw that.
I think around here we're going to go single file. The pace is going to pick up a little bit. We're going slightly downhill. My Rafa Classic shoes I'm wearing. I just put some new cleats on there and trying to get them tweaked in. But I've got pretty much all of them dialed in fairly well. You got to take a specific ride and go out whenever you get new shoes or put new cleats on there and make sure everything's settled before you put a lot of miles on them, kilometers on them. If they're not set up correctly, you can injure yourself. The cleats I have about 3 degrees of float. The blue Shimano cleats. Some roadkill there. You see how effective it is to point. You will see how ineffective it is to yell hold on this ride. Unfortunately, one of the riders hits the hole, then his bottle falls out of the cage. We, on our bikes, Paul and I use metal cages. They're made out of titanium by a company called King Cage because they're solid and light. They're even lighter than carbon cages. Very light, very strong. They last forever. You can even move them bike to bike if you want. I mean, they're just solid. It's titanium. What are you going to do with them? They just work and they hold the bottle securely. If you look at his cage there, you can see the bottom. Just nice looking, simple cage. So go to King Cage and check it out there. They're not affiliated with our channel, but they make really good bottle cages, and that's all we use. So all of us hit the same hole, but his bottle falls out. Ours don't. Because I was behind Paul was behind him. You will see that. I do a little stoppage and I show it. You need a good bottle cage that will hold your bottle so if you hit bumps it doesn't fall out, because you can cause crashes in a group and it's just a hassle. You gotta stop, go and get your bottle. Those flimsy carbon cages, they may be pretty and everything, but they're really not that strong. Especially some of them will break on you. They're very pricey too. So these King Cage titanium cages are not super inexpensive, but it's a one-time expense and they'll last you pretty much forever. I like them because they really secure the bottles. I'm going to get another pair when I can for the Colorado. That's the only bike I have that does not have the King Cage tie bottle cage on it. And they make other things besides tie cages. So if you look at my jersey right now, the color's all the same. We just started the ride. It's about 58 minutes, so let's see, 20-some minutes with these guys, about 23 minutes with them, 35, the two of us. In about another 30 minutes or so, perspiration kicks in, the top of the jersey is going to look darker. But because that jersey wicks so well, it's almost like you enjoy the evaporative cooling. Paul started minimizing meat in his diet, and then he told me about it, and I've started like switching over to just vegan eating. I mean, you know, learning different recipes and different things. It's not a major change, but just pretty much eliminating meat. Really don't need it. And he's been able to lose a lot of kilos. I think he lost about 7 kilos almost. So Paul is about 167 pounds right now. That's a good cycling weight. So I'm gonna see if switching over is going to lean me out somewhere. But you can see, if you look at my jersey, you can pretty much see my upper body is very lean. I'm not really trying or anything, just riding and making sure I drink a lot of fluids. That will definitely do that. But you know, you just eat normally, eat what you need, you know, for the most part. Watch your snacks. I'm trying to increase my riding time to 5 days per week. They don't have to be very long, but just get out and spin. On this ride, I'm using the heaviest wheels I have with the heaviest tires and quality tires. I'm using the Ultra Sport, the all-around tires. I wanted to work harder on this ride without riding off from the group, so I just put on my training wheels. We get to Spring Branch Road, I don't attack the group. I mean, I ended up sprinting in the end, but the camera had quit at that point because we've been filming for so long. And then we changed the battery when we got to the stopping point. But I did not do anything extra because I wanted to just continue the work. I didn't want to have to go so hard and sit up and all that. So you will see that the effort was very continuous on Spring Branch Road. I only went to the front when necessary. And when we get out of this neighborhood that's coming up, I go to the front because it seems like we're just kind of hanging out in the group all over the road, people chatting, and I wanted us to just start riding. We had a couple of slowdowns because Mark's chain falls off his inner chain ring, I think, so he stops to get it back on there. And so I keep spinning to encourage everybody. And then when people get on my wheel, we just start to ride. So we really started to ride. I mean, like right here, we're riding. This is a good effort. It's like zone 2 for me, but it's a good effort. This road goes up. Only Egypt Road is a good road to ride on. It's not super busy. It's not the widest road we have in the area, but you get a good workout. This is the entrance to the Grand Lake Estates. They named the road after the community. There's a car coming the opposite way, so I let everybody know to just slow down. We'll just go in behind these cars. It's not the only way to get out where we're going, but it's a more relaxed route, let's put it that way. We could have stayed on Onia, Egypt and ridden further up, and then we'd have to take Keenan Cutoff from 2854.
I grew up in Columbus, right?
There was a lot of what I call hiatus riding through here. So I edited for time and content to kind of keep things moving along in here. Mark's looking to make sure everybody's together after we get through the gate. Once he sees that, gets back in there and we start to ride. One thing you would note about group rides is you have to make a decision where you're going to ride. For me, right here is fine. I am in zone 2. I'm not really expending that much energy. You know, anything up to 300 watts is pretty much what I do most of the time. So we're just kind of riding in different pockets after getting in this neighborhood. So if you're not comfortable with the pace, find one of the groups or one of the little pockets and slip in behind somebody's wheel so you're not pushing air yourself. I want to be where I am. I want to work. I don't want to just be following the wheels. You don't get strong just following the wheels. You got to put your nose out in the wind. In a few kilometers, I'm going to show you how ineffective it is to yell hole. They yell hole, and 3 riders hit the hole. Because by the time you see the hole, it's too late. It's better to just point and don't say anything. You point, that means something's in that direction and people can move away from where you point. So we go up this climb, and then I think it curves, and that's Scott on the left. Scott hits the hole. So right there, somebody yells hole. Well, it's too late. He hits it. Paul hits it. I end up hitting it. He dropped his bottle. Paul avoids it because I can cause a crash. The bottle fell out of the cage, and that's what happens with these weak plastic cages that don't hold the bottle very well. And I say plastic, meaning plastic and carbon. They're all very pricey. They look cute, but under duress, they don't perform. He and Paul hit the same hole. Paul did not lose his bottle. He lost his bottle. So we're waiting for him to get the bottle as we turn north here. I go ahead and edit for time because it took him a while to get the bottle and then get back up, and all we do is we soft pedal. So once he gets back to the group, he'll let us know. He'll thank us for waiting for him.
I saw I was behind him.
Yeah, I just told Paul that Scott lost his bottle. He hit the hole because somebody said hole. The person who said hole was on the right of the road. So how is he supposed to know where the hole is? Regardless of where you are, just point to the obstacle. Don't be yelling around. It's too noisy anyway. Point, wave, whatever. Just give a directional warning, and then the riders will instinctively move away from where you indicate there's an issue. They don't need to know what it is. When Scott returns, look at his bottle cage. You see that? That fancy cage. Looks good, but it can't hold that bottle very well. And those things are not inexpensive. So if you're gonna pay good money for a cage, get something that's gonna hold your bottle instead of you dropping it when you go over railroad tracks or whatever. So we're gonna be approaching the gate that has no access pad for the code over here. We usually have one rider climb over the fence if there are no cars coming, which there weren't this morning. By the time we get to the gate. Then once we get through, Mark starts to have a mechanical issue with his chain. I think his chain fell off and he had to stop and put it on there. So you use these lull periods in the group to drink, eat, do whatever, to be ready to go when the group picks up the pace. Slight downhill here before we get to the gate. So I'm telling Paul that Mark had said the return route was going to be determined. So I was telling him I'm going to try to talk him into taking the gorilla route, which is a nicely paved road now. Got new pavement, and it just adds maybe a couple of miles to the loop. Nothing major. A little more scenic. So there are no cars coming from the opposite side. We have no access to the keypad because it's on the other side of the gate. We can't trip the gate because we don't have 4,000 pounds of steel and zinc around us. So someone climbs the fence, uses the gate pad to activate and open the gate, and we rolled through. As soon as we get through this gate, that's a 5% bump right there. It's very short. I think that's where Mark dropped his chain, because he probably went from the big chain ring to the little chain ring. I just stand and put the watts down. You can see the watts going up. I'm not really riding hard. I just get my upper body into it to get over it. We had stopped for a bit, so I'm pretty much in zone 1. Then I see there's a lull in the pace. We're not really getting into a pace line, and that's when we discover that Mark's going to stop to put his chain back on. You lose your chain, you have nothing. At this point, I don't know what the slowdown is about. Someone tells him put it in the big ring, leave it there. Sometimes if the chain drops and you switch to the big chain ring, you might be able to just get it back on, but sometimes you can't. So he pulls into that driveway to fix his chain. I go ahead and just keep moving slowly and decide I'm just gonna ride. I don't want to stop.
Oh yeah, Rob's not here today.
So at this point, they've gotten his chain back in there, and they've ridden up to me. So I just kept spinning slowly, probably about 20K, which is like 12 miles an hour or something like that. That's Rick up the road. He'd come by, he's riding up there. So now everybody's together, so I start picking up the pace here. I can see them in my mirror, so I know everybody's back. When I'm riding, I try to make the most out of my cycling time. I don't like waiting and messing around. It's time to ride. So I'm spinning a moderate gear, high cadence. The road is going downhill here. I go ahead and put it on the big ring. So I had been on my 39. This road leads to Keenan Cutoff as we leave this neighborhood. This is a different neighborhood from the neighborhood within the gates we're in. This is called the Hills Parkway. I ride up to Rick, just kind of surge, picked up the pace a little bit. Rick has been sitting up there going harder and harder. So I just ride up to him because I know we're going to be turning left, and I go ahead and just maintain the effort to the corner. He slows down, so I move to the left because I know we're turning left. So it's time to ride. This is Keenan Cutoff Road. We could have accessed this road from the right, which is 2854. That is the the main way to access it if you choose to, if you don't want to go through the neighborhood. I'll go ahead and turn left. Nothing's coming. The road's clear. These roads are very quiet mostly. Paul turns. I can see Paul in my mirror, so I drop the pace. You can see my speed 20 kilometers an hour. That's about 12 miles an hour. I see Paul in the mirror. I keep the speed there, keep my cadence kind of moderate. I'm in like a 39-17, 62-inch gear. I'm waiting for him. And as soon as he gets on my wheel, gets in the draft, then I start raising the pace just a little bit at a time. He's the only one I see. I'm not really looking behind for the rest. In a little bit, he will spin the camera around. You can see they're messing around back there. You see my jersey at the top has a different color? It may say 22C. It feels hotter than that. It feels warmer than that. So I'm perspiring and it's wicking the moisture. I feel fine. Yeah, those guys are back there. I figure they'll ride up to us. I'll just keep it in zone 2. I'm right around the top of zone 2. I'll go ahead and take a gel. This is an hour and a half almost into the ride for us. For them, it's probably 45 minutes or so. We started at about 6:30, so it's 8 o'clock. So about an hour or so, I took a gel. And, you have to know yourself. Some people take a gel every 30 minutes or something like that. It depends on the effort. The ride has not been very hard consistently, so I didn't need to take a gel any earlier. Plus, I ate something before I left, so all of that there are factors into how frequently you fuel yourself. I'm keeping the effort right around the top of zone 2. I figured they'll ride up to us, and I can see when they get there. You see, we got 3 shadows. I can see those shadows on the road as I'm riding. So I settle into a rhythm here. The road is going to start going up. It says 1%, 2%. I want to keep the effort consistent, so I downshift and then I rev up. Look at my cadence go up a little bit. It probably stay about the same. Let's see, 97, yeah, about 100. 99, yeah, 100 RPM. So I downshifted maybe a cog. But this stretch here, we're going slightly up. It says 3%, 2%. You feel it more than anything. You can't see it. You feel it. So you cannot ignore the feel. You want to be on top of the gear. I don't know what gear I'm in. It doesn't matter. I just downshift to keep the effort the same. So now we're riding. So just basically we're in a nice pace line. The road goes up again. I downshift even more and I spin even more. I don't want to get bogged down. I've already passed sweet spot. I'm approaching the bottom of zone 4. And all of those parameters are mine. They don't apply to anybody but me. So as I continue to ride, my goal is keep the effort consistent, keep it steady. Let's get to Spring Branch Road. Because the longer we have a hiatus in the group, the more chances you can have mishaps like crashes. That's when they happen, when people are not focused. So it's better when you're in your group to just keep riding. It doesn't matter what pace you're riding at, just keep a pace line going. Don't encourage people to just be all over the road messing around. Let's get a line going. that gets you guys through the ride and back home quicker. I've been doing this for a long time. I know what I can do and for how long, so I don't mind sitting at the front. If you're joining a group for the first time, don't spend too much time at the front and then end up getting dropped later in the ride. You start out with a group. Your goal should be do whatever is necessary to finish with the group. As you continue to ride with them, then you can gauge, okay, I'm able to finish with them comfortably now. I'm going to start taking some pulls, shorter pulls or whatever. But don't go out there, kill yourself at the front, then get dropped. That doesn't make sense. You end up riding home alone. Save your energy for later in the ride. Paul has that camera in the drops, a good shot there. He comes around me, and at this point, I'm a little concerned because I know whenever we get to Spring Branch Road, with the makeup of this group, they're going to hammer those climbs. And I know his back is bothering him, so I immediately come back to the front. I don't want him pushing the wind. I think we do this a couple of times. And he and I talked about it later, so he's going to change the strategy. But yeah, I wanted him to just kind of sit in. If you're following someone and they're spinning at a high cadence, at a pace that is hard for you, do not go and pull. Because what that means is if that person can spin a high cadence at that pace, that means they got plenty left. Because when you're tired, you don't spin. That's just the way the human body works. When you're tired, you don't want to spin. You start using more muscular strength. So just be aware as you ride more and more. There's so much to cycling that you gain if you focus on the right things when you ride. I'm not sure what Paul's doing with the camera. Oh, okay, he's going to do a rear shot here. Scott was calling that trash can for the rest of the riders behind him. You see how he just pointed to the trash can? That's the way you do it. Don't yell trash can because nobody's going to hear you. They're not going to understand it with the wind. Just point. Yeah, he does it again. He comes to the front, and I'm still concerned. Scott leaves enough room to where I can just get on Paul's wheel, and I think I go back to the front again. I don't want him in the front. I'm not even pedaling right there. I think we're going downhill. So yeah, the good thing is he's not working too hard here. But I think I come back to the front. I don't want him in front. I want him to save his energy because we don't know what's going to happen once we get out of these hills. I yell cars to let them know cars are coming. The road's not completely clear. They're far enough away, so I turn onto the shoulder because that's where we normally ride. But I wanted them to know, don't just come blowing over there because you see me turn. So I'm soft pedaling because not everybody makes the turn at the same time. That's just normal. We're like a train. So all the cars have to come through before you resume. So I'm looking in my mirror. And then someone's going to say that some of the guys are detached. And I'm going to pull into one of the driveways on the right. And as soon as I do, then they recognize that, oh, the guys are here. Then I got to get back in line. Yeah, Scott said we should stop because not everybody made the turn at the same time. I just let them know, let's turn in here. It's a wide driveway, it's paved. So as soon as I turn, then they say, oh, they're here.
They're coming. They're coming. Come on up.
So I let them go because I don't want to just jump in front of somebody else because we're rolling. And so I get in the line when it's safe. I'm behind them now. That's Scott. So this road is going to go downhill, then uphill, and then we're going to turn left onto Spring Branch Road. This is the FM 149.
Scott said you guys stopped. That's why we slowed down.
Yeah, Scott thought they had stopped. So we slowed down for that. So we'll resume. I just wanted to say that about the only thing you want to be yelling on a cycling ride is car up, car back, because we know where the cars are. Doesn't matter whether you're in the UK or South Africa, you know that drivers drive on a certain side of the road. So when I say car back, you don't have to wonder where it is. You know where it is. So those are exceptions. The thing about hole is the hole can be anywhere. That's what I wanted to qualify. So there are just certain things that are standard for you to yell. You know, car back, car up, that's good. But the rest of the stuff, just point. You know, even if you want to point to a car, that's fine too. But I'm just qualifying that so you know. Like down here, you will hear people as we begin to make our left turn, they're going to say car up because it's a blind hill as we turn left. So you can't see everything until the car appears over the top of the hill. So there's a car behind us, but he's waiting because he sees us about to turn. Then there's a car up. So we don't want to turn in front of this guy. But as they begin to turn, another car will come up that hill. So they'll call for the stragglers. You see, there's a car coming. He's not close, but they're letting people in the back know. If you're going to turn, there's a car coming. So unless you're going to cut the corner, you need to be aware of that car. That's where those are very effective warnings. So we turn on the Spring Branch Road. I think that's Paul taking a drink. I roll through. When it's very hot, I shake my legs. Kind of, this is a habit I've developed. You shake them, they seem to loosen up a little bit. Getting ready for the effort to come. But you want to drink every 10 to 15 minutes minimum. It's going to vary for everybody based on what you've been doing, but don't fall behind. Don't wait till you get thirsty. Just put water in. It's good for your body. So Robert is drifting back. I guess he wants to sit further back in the group. I'll just go ahead and pick up the nearest wheel to me. Paul gets on Dan's wheel. Dan's behind me. This is a fast part of this road. It's flat to slightly downhill, and it has sweeping turns. We don't have to deal with those two dogs that used to chase us a few months back. It seems like they've either moved or something, but they're not out here anymore. You see my jersey top is darkened because it's warmer now. It feels like 25, 26 C. So we have very nice mornings. It's just the humidity. You know, look at that sky, it's beautiful. But by about noon, it gets just really hot. When you're moving on the bike, it's tolerable. So Paul and I have a thing where I just got some short stockings from my wife. We're going to be putting ice in it and put it on our spine on very hot rides because it really makes a difference. We took it out earlier this week and it really worked well. I didn't bring mine on this ride. I should have because later in the day it's kind of warm. Around noon is when it really starts to kick in. In the mornings it's not too bad. So the speeds here indicate basically more the terrain than effort. Because I am in the bottom of zone 2. We're doing 44, 45K. This is a sweeping turn here. As we approach, there's like a 9% climb. Depending on where you ride the climb. If you ride the climb to the edge of the road is steeper than in the middle. So I think it will probably register 7% or so for me when I go through on the overlay. This is the beauty of cycling. We're all riding different machines at different cadences, but we're in a line together. It's like a symphony. So Scott is pushing a large gear. If you look at his cadence, he's in front of me. I am spinning a smaller gear. Dan is kind of in between. So everybody rides at a different rhythm. You know, it all depends on what you're used to and what you're carrying. Everybody's got different cog sets on these bikes. One cog may seem a little big, one cog may seem a little small, and you're always searching for the optimal rhythm that you want at any moment during a ride or workout. So the road said -2, so we're going downhill. Not really working here. I loosened my jersey there because I know that climb is coming and there's not a whole lot of wind when you're climbing on a steep pitch. So Mike pulls off the front as we approach the climb. So if you look at the grade or you look at our watts, you will see them go up as soon as we hit the pitch. You see how it went down here because I'm soft pedaling? And now we begin the climb and the watts will start to go up. So 2%, 3%, look at the watts. Almost 500 watts. I probably climbed it around 6 something. Yeah. Almost hit 700, so 6 something. I'm just kind of sitting. For me, it's moderate here. I mean, it's hard, but I can go harder than that. So I just sit in the middle there. People come on the side. Robert went on the side. Mark's on his wheel. So I just take the fastest line. Rick kind of gave up there, so I just got on the faster line, and I'm just spinning. You can see I'm almost at 100 RPM. I'm probably riding at 53.21 or 53.20. I think it's a 53.25 I climbed with. Then I shifted up because once we're done, it's going again. This is a second approach, and this is less. It's less effort. We're doing I'm doing 3 something watts, but it's repeat. So it's being repeated. If you're not used to the repeat effort, it can really tax your system. So right around the curve, the power drops. See that? I'm soft pedaling. And I briefly thought about, well, maybe I should attack here. I said, nah, let me just sit in. Let me just see what they do. Let's see. Let's just ride. I didn't want to increase the pace too much. I had done a long pull on Keenan cutoff. So I said, let me just sit in. And at this point, I'm just kind of watching. So Robert, who I had launched a little attack on the left there, pulled off, and Mark is just keeping it steady. Mark takes a long, strong pull. Remember, he's at the front. If I'm doing 250, he's doing at least 350 or more because he's pushing the air. I'm soft pedaling so you can see the watts float. So as you train more and more, the watts become easier for you as you get stronger. So if I had gone like 1200 watts, then I would have really broken up the groove. So I just stayed seated and just found a gear and revved it, which it was very easy on my legs, but it taxed my aerobic system. So my heart rate got up in the 170s and I dropped about 10 beats. I had been drinking before we got here. See, Dan is taking a drink. So I didn't need to really do anything. I'm just sitting and watching what they do. And right here, I'm very relaxed. The road is leveling off to slightly downhill. I'm gonna shift up as we go downhill. I wanna keep my rhythm about the same. So I've been pedaling between 95 to 105. I'm not looking at that as a ride. I'm just riding by feel. I get on the drops really just waiting to see when Mark would get off the front. I'm not sure why he's sitting there so long because this is a long effort. This road is about 10 to 12 kilometers long. At least 10 kilometers, about 6 miles. I'm not sure what they're talking about back there. I heard that, but I did not discern it. It was not clear. The road starts to go uphill. This guy passes Mark as Mark pulls off the front. And then he surges. Somebody told Mark, good pull. He surged, but then he backed off because I went 500 watts, then it dropped to 250, now it's 3 something. The road is still going up. I could tell he was putting a lot of power into the pedals because his body language was like his whole body was getting into it. He was pulling on the bars and all that. The road kind of levels off. There's a second climb coming. I'm right at sweet spot at this point. But this is why you need to save your energy. This is when it counts. This is when you need to work. Like right here, he's going on the this is like a work interval here. So you need to be prepared physically and psychologically to work. I think I end up going to the front because he continues to downshift. And the rhythm I'm on, I didn't want to change it. So I just go ahead and ride past him. He looks over as I go by. I'm carrying a larger gear at 93 RPM. Spinning a little gear, that's just not going to get him. I pull over to the right, Paul is on my wheel, and I just hold the same effort. The road is going to level off. But I'm riding by feel, so I'm just going to hold the same effort. This keeps the group together. As I ride, somebody's going to attack again. I think Robert's going to go, but I'm going to look to see who else goes. I don't go on his wheel because the last time he went, he didn't go that far. You want to go with people who can sustain it. As Mo says, the effort needs to be sustainable. If that had been somebody like Jerry or Mo, I would have jumped on their wheel because I know they can sustain it. I see Robert and I just continue to ride. I'm doing 34K, 22, 23 miles an hour. Then I see 3 other riders come. As soon as the gap opens, I just add more power. Look at my watts. But now, this is why I didn't go with it. I add more power and look, I have to back off like half. I dropped the power from 4 something to like 50. That's what I'm talking about. You can't sustain the effort that they put out. If that had been somebody like Jerry, he would have just kept going, and then you get in and you get a rhythm. And look, I'm down to 0 or whatever, so it's like I'm soft pedaling. That's why I didn't jump on his wheel. It just breaks up the group, but then you go nowhere. So what's the point? You got to get to the front with something you can sustain. So he pulls off the front, and I believe Mike Weingrad is there. Somewhere around here, the battery runs out. And Paul told me later he heard the beeps. And so we didn't get the final attack on the last hill. I waited for the last hill to go really hard. You can see the watts, 100 to 2 something. So you just sit in and you work, but you're in a high zone. So even though you're doing similar watts, being in a high zone, if you're not acclimated to being in a high zone, that's what makes you quit. Because it taxes your system. 170 beats per minute. That's high for a lot of people. I start to really, really work on my adaptability at about 180 beats per minute. I don't get up there that often. Usually it takes so much work to get there. But when we ride with the WCC, I'm always around 170, 173, even sitting in. Those guys move so fast. So at this point in the ride, we had a mechanical. We fixed, it was Mike Weingrad's rear wheel. He had blown the thread had a hole in it. I mean, the bead had a hole in it, and so we had to put one of those tire boots on there. It was a little bit of a complicated fix because he's got deep dish wheels, so he blew 2 tubes, not recognizing he had a hole. and we had to use a valve extender on the tube that he borrowed from another rider. So if you're riding deep dish wheels, get yourself an extender and keep it in your kit, in your toolkit. You should have one. Don't depend on other people to have it. You're the one with the deep dish wheels. Because if you need more than 1 or 2 tubes and you borrow from somebody, chances are, if they don't have deep dish wheels, then you're out of luck because that tube's valve will be too short. That's what happened to Mike on his ride. But we're able to fix it and get him back on the bike so he didn't have to call for a ride. But if you don't prepare, you'll end up having to sit down and wait for a ride. That sucks. I want to be riding my bike, not waiting to get in the car. So we're on 1097 West. We're outside of Montgomery, the city of Montgomery in Montgomery County, Texas, heading southeast. And this road is up and down. Lots of little bumps, but you work because we're going into the east wind. What he's telling me there is that now I know who the go-to guy is when there's a mechanical, because I was the one that assisted Mike, and I told him, well, I'm always tinkering, you know. He said, I need to be nice to you because you're the go-to guy when people have serious mechanicals. Because the problem he had could have left him stranded. When your bead on your tire is compromised, the integrity of your tire is in question. So I used the TB22 or whatever Park Tool calls it, and wrapped it around where the bead was, which gave him like a bead in a way, and we were able to get that working. I did not use his CO2. I used my pump because I didn't want to put too much pressure on that bead we had fabricated. So he was able to ride as if he had no problem. He was able to get home. You know, so. But he had blown another tube before I got there to assist him. But we thought it was a routine flat. He did not check to see what had caused his blowout. It was one of those loud blowouts. But basically, he got his money's worth out of the tire. The tire had detached from the bead and it had a hole. You know, it was just a worn tire. You know, all the tread was gone. He should have replaced it long before. You got to inspect your tire. Don't wait till you have a problem. So we're riding at about 18 miles an hour, upper grade, 3% into the wind. It's hard. My heart rate says zone 3. It felt harder. It felt like sweet spot, I think. Yeah, it's nice catching up. You can see. So you can't depend on the heart rate reading. You got to go by feel. I'm sitting in. It's a tight pace line. So whenever possible, depending on what your goals are, if you can get with a group, that's good because it will push you more than you will push yourself, and it's easier psychologically to go harder. So it's always good to mix it in whenever possible. You know, during the week it's not always practical, but if you can, fine. If not, ride by yourself during the week, but at least pick up a group ride on the weekend. We're riding at about 23 to 24 miles per hour up these little bumps into the wind. There's a lot of gravel at the intersections. We always point them out. I don't like to go through them because it's not only gravel, there's pieces of glass. They all get blown there. People throw bottles out of their cars and they break up on the highway. Cars roll over them, they get smaller, but they're sharp. And our tires don't like them. There's a little downhill here, then it kicks up before we get into the northwestern tip of Montgomery. This 1097 here will meet 141. Dan goes to the right so he doesn't have to slow down after that downhill. That the wind slowed him down enough to where he didn't need to brake. That's why you see him on the side. So he can do two things. He can see around this rider and keep his rhythm the same. So at this point in the ride, I didn't know, but Paul told me later that at this point in the ride, he was like, I kind of overcooked myself earlier, you know, in the ride. And he was thinking, okay, let's see how well my body feels before I need to back off the pace. And you always have to have that going through your mind. You need to be paying attention to how you feel throughout the ride. So Paul says car back. I let them up front know there's a car back so they don't get in the main lane. We're going to be turning right, but at these corners, some riders move over. So everybody stays on the shoulder and then we turn. And 149 here is kind of narrow. And they've got those little ridges on the right. See, Dan got off of them. You don't want to ride over those. They're uncomfortable, like little washboards. They put them there for cars. If you're running off the road and you hit that, it can get your attention. If you're not paying attention or you're dozing or something, they have them on certain highways. This is a downhill, and in the distance it kicks up. It's just a tight little bump as we go up that corner. Going towards downtown Montgomery, Texas. The city of Montgomery. So right here is a little bit of a bump. But with what we've been dealing with, this was nothing. It's at 4%, 3%. Yeah, it was nothing. So when you ride steeper climbs, the easier ones are like, they feel flat. We're in the city of Montgomery, that green sign we passed. There's a car back, but we're going to be stopping at this light. I think as soon as we get there, it changes. That road on the left there is 1097, the highway we left. That's the eastern piece of it. So if you go left, it will take you to Taco Corner. We go straight here because we're not stopping. We'd already stopped in Dacus. So you heard single file, cars back. That was me letting them know to go single file because we're not all over the road. I think I'm behind Paul here. So the next intersection is Lone Star Parkway. We're going to be turning left. So there's a car back, but we let him know we're going to take the left lane. He's going straight, I believe. So we get in the left lane to turn at this corner.
So John, not only are James and Darren not here, neither is Matt.
No.
He's my favorite target.
That's been pretty strong for not riding much.
Yeah, I know.
So as we turn, the light starts to change. We want to go ahead and get across. The left turn. That car pulls over. That driver pulls over. We had to make sure that there was a rider behind. I had to let him know, be alert, because he pulled over without letting us know he was pulling over. I'm looking back to make sure everybody made the turn. There's a gap in the group, and for some reason the front group is riding hard. If you look at my stats, we're doing 40K almost, and I'm gonna ride up to the group. I think I've already caught the back of it. This is a rider here by himself that we came across. I'm right on the white line. If you're gonna ride like that, you see there's not much pavement to my right. You need to make sure you're looking at the white line. Look at where you want your bike to be. Right here, the effort is on. We're riding hard. See, 300 plus watts. And this rider is doing his best to keep that gap the same. It's hard when you're at the back because that yo-yo effect. So then whoever's riding, they backed off. You can see my watts have dropped. I'm kind of soft pedaling. And these are short bumps. There's another one in the distance where the car came from. We'll go down and then it goes up to the stop sign. Then after the stop sign, there's another one. So what I'm pointing out is at this point in the ride, we've been hammering these hills. And Paul's back is bothering him because he had twisted something in there a few weeks back. We were working on some project he was helping me with. So he's been nursing it back. And so at this point in the ride, his back has had enough. And it's a hard ride. We've been hammering all day. Four-way stop sign. Taco corner is on the left there, and we usually come from the other direction. Mike checks is clear, so we go through as a group, and then the road is going to go up. So this is like hill number 4, let's say, counting the one on Montgomery from the time we turn. So this is like the 4th bump. You can see my watts. So if you're not used to going 400, 500 watts repeatedly, it wears you down. They slow down at soft pedal. I'm right there. I can see. I stay back a little bit to keep my effort smoother because they're doing a lot of surges, then backing off. I drift one way or the other so I can see around. And so what ends up happening is I'm going to drift probably to the right so I can see what's coming. I know this road very well. The shoulder's clean, so I'm not concerned about it, but I want to pay attention to what they're doing at the front. The road's going to start going downhill, and usually we go like in excess of 40K. This is when you want to take a drink, do whatever, because it's a good lull in the action, but you need to stay close, and you'll see why. As the front guys approach the intersection, the light turns green, and then one of these what I call old green, so by the time we get there, it flips to yellow and then red. Right here to start to go. You will see me motion to Paul, because I know he's back there. I can see that they're going to take the light. But right there, I tell him, we're going for it. And right after the light, this is a long climb. It goes from 3.5 to 4.5%, 3.5, 2.5, and back to 4. So it's an awkward climb. There are certain climbs like that. You can't get into a rhythm. So right here, it just feels odd. It's hard, then it levels off, then it kicks again. So look at my watts. We're going hard here. Then it levels. I see my watts drop a little bit, and you see grade says 3. I don't know if we see 2%, but right here is 3. It do 3 to 3.5, then it goes to 4. Then I noticed that Dan's up the road. He must have gotten through the light first. So he's a few riders up the road, you know, distance-wise, a few yards off the front of the group. That's Dan up there. So now Mike will try to get up there, but then sit up. And you can see we've got Paul gapped. So he's working harder because he's gapped here. In a little bit, he's going to tell Mike to come around. Mike S5 is behind him. Because right here, he catches back up, but he doesn't get a chance to catch his breath because we're going to go hard again. This is an odd climb. Now it says 0, but it levels up and it's going to kick back up. It says 0, but it's really not. It says 1%. So there's a slight grade, like a false flat. So you're working the entire time. So unless you've been accustomed to going hard for several minutes, this kind of stuff wears you down. So right here, Paul should have been closer. He's too far off the wheel. You gotta be closer. Because psychologically it helps you stick to a wheel. Now he's coming closer. I think by the time he gets there, we go harder because the road starts to go up. See where it says 1%? It's gonna start going up. 2%, it's going up. This is the last punch before it levels off. Right here, we're putting the power. Look at my watch. So it went up, came back, now it's going back again. We're pulling away.
Go ahead, man.
And he tells Mike S5 to go ahead. This is where he lets us go. There's the repeats that get you. So I hope you got a chance to get out on Saturday. This is part of what we did.